I'm sorry, Dave.
Thank you all so much for being so great about everything.
It's about a guy who has recently lost his mother to cancer. And he convinces himself that the way to move on is to get his friends, his very best friends in the world, and his girlfriend to join him in the desert in a house for a week.
What I really want is to have sex with everyone here.
Oh, man.
It's not a joke.
Is there a term for this kind of, I need to feel better by way of group sex? Is there, what's that refer? Is there a term for that?
It's like a pity orgy, I guess.
I think the way that we wrote it up was therapeutic orgy.
Yeah.
Yeah, pity orgy. It's funny
orgy,
though.
Yeah. They all think he's got to be kidding because it's such odd behavior, it's such an odd request, but he's incredibly persistent, and he really just feels that it's the explosion of love that he needs to get himself through a difficult time. And Melanie plays my girlfriend, who obviously is horrified, mortified by this request and embarrassed. And his friends do their best to sort of guide themselves and him through the week, the awkward week in the desert.
Was that a hospitable environment for shooting the movie, or was there a lot of sweating? And
It's a nasty place. They split the cast up into two houses. There was the girls' house and the guys' house, so we all lived together for 3 weeks. Our house, her house was all messed up. The girls' house was really bad.
This house was terrible. The guy's house was quite lovely.
We had a nice house, except our next door neighbor, probably a meth lab, and it was boarded. Yeah, and it was boarded up, and it had spray paint on the outside that said "Beware," and it was decorated in.
Beware wasn't spelled properly.
No, right. Bewhere. Yeah, and there were strings of doll heads all over the place.
It's about the
It was
creepiest
really
thing
creepy.
you've ever seen.
So imagine showing up and
heads.
they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna shoot this movie in the desert for 3 weeks, and that's your house." And you're like, "Oh, cool, that looks like a cool house. What's that house next door?" And then you go down the road a little bit, and you're like, "This is a nightmare." It was a little scary.
I'm interested in your character's relationship to this guy and how you put up with his request. What was your process like?
I'm not a very imaginative actor.
No?
To be honest with you, no. Everything kind of comes from some secret places within myself that I've gone through, or it has to sort of connect with me in some way. Yeah. So, I think for me, when I read the script, I really related to that aspect of being in a relationship with somebody who's going through something that you don't necessarily understand, and you just start kind of running in place to try to make it better. You get to a point where you're like, I don't understand what you need or what you're asking me for, but I want to give it to you, whatever it is. And then, things can sort of spiral out of control when you're trying to make another person happy.
So it's a husband and wife team that made this movie, and this is a very interesting movie about relationships. What are those two like?
It's based on a real thing that happened to them. That's obviously not. He didn't ask.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as dramatic.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I mean. Yeah, but I think even Thomas had a moment. Had a break, let's put it that way. He had a bit of a psychological break, and it really tested their relationship. And Rebecca sort of needed to know that Thomas was going to be okay immediately, and that answer wasn't necessarily provided to her for quite some time, and it took him a while to get better. And part of getting better was writing the script, and so I think the real closure for them was getting to direct the story together. The script's lovely in that it's a lot of connective tissue. It's a lot of stark realism, and so I think everyone showed up to sort of play with something that they felt was very real. I think the best actor in the movie is the dog. That's the best movie dog ever, and it's my dog, and I say that completely objectively. That is the best movie dog ever. You tell me you didn't love the scenes with the dog.
I think that dog, other than perhaps Lassie, NG, Old Yeller.
But it's up there with the legends of
It's in that
dogs in film.
pantheon. The dog on Frasier was pretty good.
Yeah, Eddie. Eddie.
What's your dog?
You didn't like that dog?
Do they nominate dogs for Independent Spirit Awards? Because the dog has a lot of spirit.
She does. She's actually a she. He plays it. She plays a man. It's like her. What's that movie that Glenn Close did? Albert Nobbs. This is her Albert Nobbs.
Hannah's
performance.
basically Albert Nobbs.
Yeah, correct.
You know, you guys are a lot of fun.
Thanks.
You know what I'm going to do?
Uh-oh.
I want to go to the bar and get another drink.
Uh-oh.
And what I'm going to try to do is talk a few folks into possibly joining me for a therapeutic orgy.
I think you'll be giving it to yourself.
Yes. Am I that obvious?
Well, I don't know. If you go stumbling up to people and ask them for a therapeutic orgy, I don't think you're going to have very much luck.
You guys are good sports.
It's your legacy on film. I mean, 20 years from now, you may look at this and be like, why did I make the dog joke?
I know. Do you think? Maybe 20 minutes?
20 minutes from now, yeah.
Be curious.